Welcome back to Half the Battle. I'm your host, as always, Daniel Levi, your co-host, Shaq. We're going to be talking the Ultimate Fighter 27 finale, Brad Tavares versus Israel Adesanya. Shaq, it's going down tomorrow, man, and it's interesting because Israel Adesanya, this is his third fight in the UFC, and he's already taken on the 16-fight veteran and number 8 guy on planet Earth, Brad Tavares.
And yeah, this is a great fight because, Brad Tavares has been looking the best he ever has on his win streak currently. And he's been taking care of business. He beat tough guys too, like Elias, Talis, and Christoph. So now he's facing this young upstart who's got a lot of hype, really doesn't have the opponents to, say that he's on Brad Tavares' level. But I thought he's had some good performances in there. So we're going to see if he lives up to the hype.
He definitely has, man. He's definitely someone you got to look out for. And, I'm just curious to see if it's too much too soon. It might not be. He might already be at that level. So that's why I'm very intrigued for that fight. And real quick, obviously, everyone heard our UFC 226 breakdown yesterday. And, after we released that, the news came out that Max Holloway was pulled from the fight due to a concussion. And, man, it sucks because he's only 26 years old. He's just a kid. He's already experiencing stuff like that. And we've seen in the past with guys like Holdsworth and TJ Grant, they never came back once those concussion symptoms hit. So I really hope shit works out for Max Holloway, Shaq.
Yeah, it's unfortunate to see something like that happen, and for him, it's a good thing that he didn't fight because those type of things can really change people's careers. So, hopefully it's nothing too major. Hopefully he just needs some time off and heal that brain. But we'll just put the interim title out there, and we'll let Max heal up.
Yeah, man, I'm hoping for the best, but this is super serious. I hope he can fight again. I hope he comes back looking good. And as far as Ortega, people are talking shit. Oh, you won't take a one-day notice fight with Jeremy or Frankie. It's like, shut your fucking mouth. Like, he earned that goddamn title shot. He arguably has better wins than Max Holloway. He finished Renato Moicano. He finished Frankie Edgar. Now we're going to talk about taking a fight ranked below, because Max couldn't make it to the fight. And hell, fuck all that, man. He should wait for that title shot that he earned.
For sure, 100%. Why on earth would he give Jeremy the opportunity of a lifetime on a day's notice? That makes no sense. Ortega did the right thing, and we saw what happened when Frankie had his title shot and decided to fight, and he lost. He lost that title shot. So Ortega is making the right move here.
Yeah, people are saying Ortega should return the favor to Frankie. He doesn't owe Frankie a fucking thing. You know what I'm saying? Frankie didn't have to take that fight. Like, it was what it was.
Frankie got knocked out in the first round.
You know what's interesting? I've noticed Ortega's been playing little mind games with Holloway too. I know the fight's canceled now, but he's been saying some things like, for example, he's been calling himself blessed a lot. He's been saying I'm super blessed. Like, he's going out of his way to say it. Like, he's never said that before. And there was another thing that he's been doing too. He's been saying it is what it is a lot. He's been kind of subtly fucking with Max Holloway a little bit. You been noticing that?
I actually haven't, but Ortega plays mind games with a lot of people. It's funny because when he fought Moicano, he said that he thought Moicano all fight week thought he was comfortable. So it's interesting to see him pick up these reads that he gets off people.
Yeah, and man, I know I picked Max on the show, but man, it was going to be an interesting fight is all I got to say, dude. Shit was going to go down. It wasn't going to be a walk in the park like Max's last few opponents is all I got to say.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
So now we got to break down this card, and, we waited an extra day so we could see the final lineup, and now we got the final lineup, and we'll just keep it short on these ones that don't have odds, like this first fight between Tyler Diamond and Bryce Mitchell. We don't even have to give breakdowns. You can just give a pick. So you leaning with the D1 wrestler Tyler Diamond, or are you going with the other semifinalist Bryce Mitchell?
Man, I see Tyler Diamond got his ass beat last night, actually.
By an old man.
By an old man. So, I'm not too familiar with the other guy, to be honest, but I'm going to just say Tyler Diamond wrestles his way to an ekes out a decision.
Yeah, for me, it comes down to if this guy can manage that gas tank, because once he couldn't get that old man out of there, he started to break really hard. People say that he fought on all heart, but, he kept pushing, but between you and me, he was broken in that first round. I don't know much about this Bryce Mitchell kid, but I think that if he can take this into deep waters, he can possibly win. So, no bet here, obviously. There's not even a line out yet, but I'm going to go with Bryce Mitchell for what I think should be an upset, because he probably will be the dog. Now, next up in the middleweight division, we got Oscar Pihota. He's minus 235. The comeback on Gerald Meerschaert is plus 195. It's an interesting matchup, man. We got the undefeated prospect taking on the grizzled vet. I mean, my boy Gerald Meerschaert's had 36 pro fights. Oscar is still making his way up the ranks. Which way are you leaning for this one?
I got a lot of respect for my boy Gerald Meerschaert because he was that guy that got thrown right into the fire. As a teenager, he had to fight all these pro fights against all these vets, and he had to get groomed the tough way. And Piechota, he's definitely performed up to his hype so far in the UFC. I mean, the two guys that he's fought, he handled Wilson and and who did he fight last? Oh, yeah, Tim Williams, the dude that's about to get killed by Eric Anders in a few weeks. But but we've yet to see what happens when things really get tough. We know that on the mat he's got some super credentials. He's like a European BJJ champ, and I mean we saw the power in his hands his last fight, and we know that GM3 he's like one of these guys where on tape he looks really bad, but when you get in there, it's going to be a completely different thing because he knows how to adapt and he's so experienced. The guy knows how to stay calm in every situation, and the thing that I see in this fight is, I think Piechota is just technically better than Meerschaert everywhere. It's just a matter if Piechota, somehow gets that back and doesn't finish him, and they come back out for the second round and they get back up to the feet, is he going to be completely gassed? And, because we know that when Meerschaert gets back up to his feet in the scrambles, he tends to turn it up a little bit and just keep coming forward, just like how he did against Eric Spicely. So, it's just a matter of how Piechota stays calm when Meerschaert does put that pressure on him, because there is going to be moments where Meerschaert does put that pressure on him. But ultimately, I think Oscar's just too clean. I think, in that Jonathan Wilson fight, the only thing that I did see was that his legs did get a little bit tired after he held that back on for a while. So I think as long as he stays calm when Meerschaert puts that pressure on him, I think he's just too clean. I think Meerschaert's one of these finishers. He doesn't. He's not when fights go to decision, he's not going to win. Just put it that way. He's got a bunch of submissions, but he's also been submitted 7 times, and he's never won a decision in his career. So, I'm going to go with Piechota here.
It's interesting you bring up the fact that Meerschaert's a finisher, not a decisioner, because a lot of people have this impression that he's a workman, but I'm here to tell you, out of 36 professional fights, he's only been the distance 3 times, Shaq. If that's not a finisher, I don't know what is, man. So the way I see this fight going, obviously, I think that Oscar Piechota has probably the higher ceiling between the two. I think he's a very bright prospect, but I also think that it's always first L time, and I think that the first round, Oscar's going to have some very dominant moments. Now, it comes down to, can Oscar finish that fight in the first round? Can he knock him out? Can he take his back and choke him out? Because if he doesn't, man, don't be surprised when Gerald weathers that storm and comes back in that second and third round and uses his experience and possibly even finishes Oscar Piechota. So for me, it's a super tough fight to call. And a lot of people don't know about Oscar's black belt. The guy's a world-class black belt. I believe, isn't he a Robert Drysdale black belt, Shaq?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's got serious credentials, and you saw his last fight. He can knock dudes out as well. But I just think Gerald's got too much experience for him. It's not going to surprise me if Oscar's already on that level and he comes out here and gets his 3rd UFC win. But you know what? I'm going to go with the upset, so I'm going to take Gerald Meerschaert. Now, next up in the featherweight division, we got Matt Bessette. He's -165. The comeback on Steven Peterson is +145. Now, Steven Peterson, man, he's been involved in 2 very exciting fights inside the octagon. Obviously, you remember that fight with Benito Lopez on Contender Series, and most recently, the fight with Brandon Davis, which did get Fight of the Night. So, my boy Richie Peterson, he doesn't have a problem shedding blood on that UFC canvas. Now, the question is, can he beat a guy like Matt Bessette?
Yeah, at first I was thinking, Bessette might take this one easy, but when you look at both these guys, they're kind of similar. They both paid their dues on the local scene in their various promotions, and they both have a history of taking a lot of damage as well. Peterson in his 2 UFC fights he's lost, but he's put on great fights, and he's almost striking me as that guy that's going to be one of those entertaining fighters, but not really win a lot. I think he's tough. I think he keeps moving forward constantly. He's got a great volume of punches. So but I think what's going to play the factor here is the size. I think Steven Peterson's a bantamweight. I think he's fighting at 145 because he feels healthier. But I think the difference here is going to be that when he does try to put that pressure on him, I think he's just going to get pushed back, and Bessette will just land the slightly harder punches, and Peterson cuts very easily. So does Bessette. They've both been knocked out, but I just think that Bessette has the even though Peterson has a more volume of punches, I think Bissett has the more cleaner, powerful punches. I think Bissett is the better wrestler, even though I think they're very fairly even across the board. But I just think the physicality is what's going to win Bissett this fight.
Yeah, I'm actually with you on this one as well, man. I remember when Matt Bissett upset Diego Nunes back in the day when Diego got cut from the UFC, and he was a huge favorite in that matchup. And Matt Bissett's a guy that's really paid his dues outside the cage as well, man. I mean, the guy's been around for a while, so he's a true badass. And Steven Peterson too. But the thing with Steven Peterson is he's slightly better than a local scene fighter, but he's slightly below a UFC caliber fighter. So it's kind of an interesting middle ground with him. I mean, he's good enough to get a fight of the night bonus on the losing end, but I'm not quite convinced that he's actually going to win a single UFC fight. But we'll find out here. I'm going to go with Matt Bissett here for the win. Shaq, so next up in the lightweight division, it's kind of funny, man, because we got John Gunther, the guy that I said would never make a UFC debut. It's funny, I lost a bet to you on that one because apparently he was Stipe's friend, so he is making a UFC debut. He's taking on Alan Zuniga, and right now the odds are minus 185 for John Gunther. The comeback on Alan Zuniga is plus 160. So which way you leaning, Shaq?
At first, I was thinking how everyone was thinking, that John Gunther is a complete joke and how, he doesn't belong in the UFC. I didn't even think he could win the NFC title or, the Invicta title, you know what I'm saying? So, Gunther, but the thing is, when you look into it, Gunther, he's actually beaten a couple prospects out there. Like, he beat a guy that's fighting on Contender Series in a couple of weeks, and, like, the guy's actually really good. Not Gunther, the other guy, but, Gunther's a typical workman. He's like a watered-down version of, like a Chris Gritzmacher. He wants to move forward and eat shots and try to get you to gas out so that he can, take you down or knock you out. And, it's actually worked out for him a lot. I mean, his face is bloodied up a lot in those local scene fights, but hey, he got his job done and he got undefeated now on TUF. I don't know what the hell was going on there. Like, that first one, I've never seen such horrendous shit in my life when he fought Giannetti. But when you're fighting a guy like Alan Zuniga, who's from Costa Rica, and we've already known that the Peruvian, the Chileans, the Costa Ricans, their level of MMA is just fairly low. It's fairly new down there. So Zuniga, even though he's 13-0, he's also a jobber. You know what I'm saying? So I think Zuniga is definitely a better puncher and a better kicker, but I feel like he might not be smart enough to realize that, let me manage my gas tank out here, because Gunther's just going to come forward like an idiot, trying to put pressure on him to get him to gas out. So I could see the fight going either way. I'm going to actually take my boy John Gunther getting his first UFC win.
I'm going to go the opposite way, man. I'm going to go with Alan Zuniga. I'll never pick John Gunther in a fight ever. The guy, that display we saw in Ultimate Fighter was probably the worst thing I've ever seen. My boy Alan's a jobber as well, but I think he has the capability to find a way to win in this specific spot, so I'm going to pick him here. Now, next up, also in the lightweight division, we got Luis Pena. He's minus 370. The comeback on Richie Smolin is plus 310. Now, between you and me, Shaq, there's only one reason why Richie Smolin got this call to make his UFC debut, and it's not because he's teammates with Conor McGregor either, Shaq.
Yeah, I think this is, going to be a quick one. I think Pena's just too skilled for this guy. Richie, just put it this way, he flew out from Ireland to Vegas not to fight. Now, I understand, there was some type of thing in his calves, and I'm just saying, everyone else flew out there and everyone else fought. You know what I'm saying, Dan? So I can't really excuse it. So, and we know the history with these leg lock guys. They tend to go running a lot, Daniel. So I don't think there's anywhere for him to run. I think Pena's just gonna do his thing, whether it goes to decision, TKO, rear naked choke. He's a 6'3" lightweight. He's too long and tall. I think his level of competition over here in America has been way better. Richie's been fighting, the young kids like the Rice McKees of the world and all, and he's been getting smashed by those guys. And now he's fighting, the top prospect on the Southeast, who's a 6'3" lightweight. And we already know the success of 6'3" lightweight. So I'm going to take my boy Luis Pena.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people don't realize that these leg lock guys are some of the most mentally fragile guys in the game because the leg locks are such dangerous moves. I mean, you can blow someone's ACL, put them out for 6 months to a year. But when these leg lock guys don't get their leg locks, they always quit. I don't know what it is. I mean, I can't explain it, Shaq. Winners win and losers lose. And when leg lockers don't get their leg locks, they quit. I don't know what it is, man. But, I mean, we've seen it time in, time out. I mean, Ian Entwistle, even my boy Husimar Palhares, who's on a completely different level than these guys, even when shit didn't go his way, he would cover up and quit. There's just something about these leg lock guys' MO. It's like a Charles DuBronx situation, just only with leg locks. So, as long as Richie doesn't get this leg lock, I see Luis Pena being way too long on the feet, being way too diverse, going to throw nice straight punches, flying knees, teeps to the face, the whole arsenal, the spins, everything. So, yeah, I see this being a showcase fight for Luis Pena here. And, similar to how Richie Smolin was covering up against Rice McKee and, Rice, that jobber who actually lost last week, by the way, couldn't get him out of there. I do think Luis will be able to get him out of there. So for that reason, I do have the big favorite, Luis Pena, to most likely get a stoppage win. But if somehow the leg lock guy can survive, I see it being a 30-26. Now, next up in the women's flyweight division, we got Montana De La Rosa. She's minus 175. The comeback on Rachel Ostovich is plus 155. Now, Shaq, I know Yancey and Max both pulled out of Saturday's contest. You think a Hawaiian's going to win this weekend, my man?
I actually think my girl Rachel Ostovich is going to do this. De La Rosa came out in her debut, and her striking looked like it was still in that stage of prehistoric female MMA where they just charge forward with their hands out, getting cracked with a bunch of punches and attempts to get a takedown. And Ostovich, she's kind of a striker. She beat Melinda Fabian's ass, who we just saw her fight the last card against our South Korean girl, Jeon Kim. So, Ostovich is fairly skilled in my opinion. She's still young. Ostovich, my worry with her is, she's a super pretty girl. So, she might not be the toughest because, I have seen her in one of her prior fights be up 2 rounds and then get cracked with the shot in the 3rd round and, kind of find her way out, and she got knocked out. De La Rosa, even though she's young, she's way more experienced than pretty much most of those girls on that show. And she's actually like a super accomplished high school wrestler. But I just think that Ostovich could sit back here. I think she can play it safe and, snipe this girl from the outside, similar like to how she did Fabian. Because I think Montana's boxing game at distance is her boxing game at distance isn't up to par with Ostovich. So I just see Ostovich landing the better shots throughout the course of a 3-round fight. On the mat, I still think both girls are in that stage of armbar, 50-50. Let's go back and forth with these armbar attempts. So I think Ostovich gets her hand raised by decision.
Look, I think it's pretty obvious who the UFC wants to promote in this matchup. And I'll tell you right now, it's not Montana De La Rosa. It's definitely Rachel Ostovich. And, even though Rachel is super inexperienced, at least she's showing me some good signs. For example, in that fight with Melinda Fabian on the Tough House, she went in there against the Euro striker. She was landing the better shots on the feet, and then she took her down and she finished her right away. And obviously, you saw how she performed in that UFC debut as well. So now we're talking about 2 finishes in a row. Now she's got the chance to come out here against Montana De La Rosa, and Montana's a pretty tough chick as well. I just think that she's probably not tougher than this Hawaiian girl, so I'm gonna go with Rachel Ostovich here to get the win. I know that was probably my best breakdown ever, right, Shaq? Next up, it was initially supposed.
I mean, you could just say that you want Ostovich to win because she's hotter.
I know, right? So next up, it was supposed to be an 185-pound matchup, but it's an 190-pound matchup because this fat ass Julian Marcus missed weight by 4 pounds, and I'll tell the fans a little secret. We might have been considering a little play on Alessio, but last time that we bet on a guy that was fighting an opponent that missed weight by 4 pounds or more, shit didn't go our way, and I'm not trying to play that game again because that these guys that miss weight, aside from Molly the Can McCann, they're pretty much undefeated in 2018 minus her. So here's my question, man. Obviously, the line is minus 150.
Don't forget about my boy Robert Whitaker too.
Oh yeah, that's true too. But between you and me, that was only point two. So, and between you and me, Yoel won that fight too. But you know, that being said, Julian Marquez is minus 150. The comeback on Alessio Di Chirico is plus 130. So, you think this weight advantage is going to work in Julian Marquez's favor, or do you think he's going to gas faster in this particular fight?
I'm actually going to go with the latter part. I think Marquez is, one of these fighters that he's got a lot of hype, but it's really just due to the fights being exciting. But if you really look behind all that, I mean, the guy's really sloppy. He beat Phil Hawes by knockout. I mean, Daniel, who hasn't beaten Phil Hawes?
Hey, Cub Swanson said he's a future world champion. Cub Swanson also said he was smoking Ortega. The only thing Cub Swanson is smoking is some good-ass perp or kush. I'll tell you that right now, Shaq.
Yeah, I think Cub Swanson's taking too many punches to the head. But, I think Marquez is an exciting fighter that has a way of, captivating a crowd. But I don't think he's a very efficient fighter. All I see is a guy that, throws big hooks, tries to, overpower his opponents. And when you're fighting Phil Hawes and Darren Stewart, guys that don't do their job a lot and don't win a lot, that will work out. But when you fight, I know Alessio's 2-2. Between you and me, he's about 3-1, even though the spicy loss really doesn't count. But I think that Alessio can be a little bit more cleaner in the midst of a brawl. I think Alessio's down to brawl as well, but I think Alessio, will hit a double leg, or just land the slightly better punches. Marquez gets real sloppy in there. We saw in the Darren Stewart fight. I mean, they were just on the fence, just trading sloppy back and forth. That's the type of fight he's interested in. I think Alessio's going to shoot a lot of takedowns in those type of positions, and I think he's the cleaner fighter, and I think that he's the more experienced fighter, and I think it's first L time in the UFC for Julian Marquez. And, the fact that he's missed the weight by the 4 pounds, which he's probably going to miss weight tomorrow as well, it could be a factor. But at the same time, in situations like these, it's best to just stay out because, it's like you're betting on a guy that missed weight. So, his preparation wasn't 100% right. And then you're going to fade a guy that misses weight. I mean, if you lose that, you're going to be like, fuck, I should have stayed away. So these are one of those situations where I just like to sit back and enjoy which side wins.
Yeah, Julian Marquez is a very exciting guy. I mean, obviously, even when you go back and you watch his first professional defeat to Chris Harris and Bellator, those two were swinging some big haze at each other, Shaq. It's just that Julian Marquez has a very suspect gas tank, man. He comes out super hard the first 2.5 minutes of every round, and then he pushes such a pace he can't keep it up. He's a gassing assassin. That's what he is, man. So I think his only chance to win this fight is to knock out Alessio Di Chirico, but I think Alessio's got a serious chin on him, and not only that, I think he's the more well-rounded fighter. I think he can mix in the takedowns at the end of the rounds. I think he comes from a better camp. I mean, also, my boy Alessio's in there training with Carlo Pedersoli every single day. Those guys are on the come-up, so look out for them. I got Alessio Di Chirico to beat Julian Marquez. Most likely a decision, but don't be surprised if he finishes him when Julian gasses. Now, next up in the women's flyweight division, we got Barb Honchak. She's minus 175. The comeback on Roxanne Modafferi is plus 155. Now, Shaq, can you believe someone that lost to Angela Magana and Lauren Murphy is minus 175 in 2018? She's also 40 years old, by the way.
Yeah, but back then, don't have some respect for my girl Angela Magana, bro. Back in the day, she used to be a good fighter. But that same chick also beat Felice, Leslie Smith, Anzarov, and Modafferi that she's fighting right now. So, but the thing is, like you said, she's 38, 40 years old, and she hadn't fought for like 4 years before TUF. And when she came back, this is going to be your typical, soccer mom fight. This is, it's going to be which soccer mom's better. Modafferi, she likes to, I'll give her props. I mean, she used to be a bum, and now I guess she's doing her thing. And, Honchak finished my girl Jillian Robertson in the first round, bro. So, I think it's a 50-50 fight. I'm going to actually take my girl Modafferi here with the upset. I think my girl Barb's a little too old these days, but, I wouldn't be shocked if the soccer mom with the better wins pulls it out.
Yeah, look, I got Roxanne Modafferi as well. It's funny. I never thought I'd ever pick Roxanne Modafferi in a fight, but I gotta do it here, man, because I think that Barb Honchak is too old now. I think her time has passed, and even though it looks super ugly with Roxy, I mean, I gotta give credit where credit's due. When you come off a 5-fight losing streak, and then you've been putting up the kind of numbers that she's been putting up lately, hey, she turned things around. I think that's credit to my boy John Wood. You know, he's getting a lot of these fighters right over there at Syndicate, and you know, not saying she's about to win no world title, because you know, obviously she ain't, but I think she can go out here and beat this 40-year-old Barb Honchak. So, yeah, I'm going to pick Roxanne Modafferi as well. Now, next up in the UFC featherweight division, we got Alex Bruce Leroy Caceres. He's minus 130. The comeback on Martin El Toro Bravo is plus 110. Now, my boy Martin Bravo, he got starched badly by Humberto Bandenay his last fight. But that being said, he ducked right into the head kick, and you know that if anyone can come back from a brutal knockout like that, it is a Mexican warrior. That's exactly what Martin Bravo is. So that being said, do you think he rebounds in style and beats the very experienced Alex Bruce Leroy Caceres?
You know, this is a tough fight because historically, this is the type of fight Alex Bruce Leroy wins. You know, we know he's not going to beat any, you know, up-and-coming guys besides that fluke win against my boy Sergio back in the day, but...
And they're separated by 2 weight classes anyways.
Exactly, you know what I'm saying? He fought a teenager that back then. And let's be honest, it was a fluke. But props to Caceres. But, I mean, Caceres is a 500 fighter. You know, he's lost half his fights pretty much. I think he's 9-9 in the UFC. Sometimes his, you know, weird movement works and sometimes it's not. So I got to put him in that Sertanejo category. I got to put him in that Jason Knight category. He's a inefficient fighter where 50% of the time it might work out. So it's pretty much crapshoot with that guy. This is the type of fight he generally wins because, you know, generally he'll lose to the Knights, the Yairs, the Cisco Rivera's, all the ranked guys, and then he generally takes a fight against you know, a Rolando D or a Cole Miller or a Kyung Ho Kang back in the day, like just like how he's fighting Bravo. Now, Bravo, I thought he was a jobber before he got knocked out by Bandenay. Like, it shocked me that he got knocked out like that, but I thought he was a bum going into that fight. The thing is here, I don't expect Alex Bruce Leroy after that ass whooping that he took against my boy Wang Guan back in December sometime in China. I don't know if he's ever going to be operating at a good frequency anymore. And the frequency he was operating already was a 50% frequency. So, you know, I'm actually going to take my boy Martin in this one. I think it's going to be super close, a split decision, but I think Martin, if he can move forward, I think his punches are really light. I don't think they have a lot of power in them, but we saw that he likes to, you know, keep moving forward, put pressure on guys. And, you know, he folded my boy Claudio Puelles up. And I just think that Caceres is on his way out. It wouldn't shock me if he was able to edge out a decision because I do think he's just slightly better than Bravo in each aspect. But I think, you know, as he's creeping up to that 30-year-old mark, you know, he can't keep up that movement anymore. His style already wasn't efficient anymore. So I think it's a little brewing for upset. So I got Bravo.
Yeah, I mean, when we talk about, you know, that 30-year-old mark, for Bruce Leroy, it's more like 40 years old because the guy's had so many goddamn fights. He's been in there forever. And, you know, I want the fans to have to battle. Someone explain to me how one judge scored the Yair Rodriguez fight and the Wang Guan fight for Alex Bruce Leroy Caceres because he didn't win a fucking thing of either of those fights. He lost 4-1 to Yair and he lost 3-0 to Wang Guan. So, you know, I don't get it. But that being said, look, Bruce Leroy is a UFC vet. He's been in there with a lot of guys. He's flashy. He's fun to watch. But I think Martin Bravo can come out here, put that Mexican pressure on him, set a pace on him. And as long as he doesn't get caught with something, as long as he doesn't go down, as long as his chin hasn't been severely diminished by Humberto Bandenay's vicious shin, I think that Martin Bravo can have success here. And I'm picking him to win this fight. Now, next up, in the featherweight division, we got an Ultimate Fighter finale fight. We'll keep it short and sweet. We got Brad Katona. He's minus 225. The comeback on Jay Kunisela, or whatever the hell his name is plus 175. Now, yesterday you saw Jay, the old man, go out there and beat Tyler Diamond. You think he's going to get a second straight upset here against Brad Katona?
No, I think my boy Katona is the more efficient fighter. I think we're going to see that age play a factor in this one. And, you know, the old man, he had a good ride, but I think it comes to an end. So I got Brad Katona winning the Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah, I got Brad Katona as well. I simply think that he's the younger fighter, the smarter fighter. I think he's very intelligent in there. I don't think he's going to gas himself out like Tyler Diamond's dumbass did. I think that Brad Katona can stay composed in there and go out there, either finish the fight or win a decision. So I got Brad Katona as well. Now, next up, the lightweight finale, we got Joe Gianetti's minus 115. Excuse me, he's minus 150. The comeback on Mike Trizano is plus 120. Which way are you going?
Yeah, Janetti actually trains at the same gym as Manny Bermudez, and he's a long guy, southpaw. He's got some tricky things. We know those long guys; it's always difficult to fight them just because of that length. And Trezano, I feel like, he's a better puncher slightly and a little rougher, stockier guy. But it's going to be interesting to see how he does with that length on the outside because Giannetti, I thought his level of competition on the show kind of was weak. I mean, he fought Gunther, he fought Zuniga. I think he fought the two jobbers of the show. So I'm gonna go with my boy Trezano. I think Trezano pulls out a decision. I think it's gonna be a close fight. I think both guys are gonna be nervous, but I like Trezano from Tiger Schulman's to get the win.
Yeah, it's tough to pick against the Tiger Schulman's guy in this spot, but I'm gonna go ahead and pick against him, and I'm gonna go with Joe Giannetti. He kind of reminds me of like Joe Lozon in his prime. Not Joe Lozon the punching bag, even though he was always a punching bag Shaq. But look, he reminds me of Joe Lozon in his prime. I think he can mix up the hands, and if Mike starts to shoot on sloppy takedowns, I think that Joe can capitalize, get a guillotine. I'm gonna go with the longer guy here. I'm gonna go with Joe Giannetti here. Now, next up, the main event of the evening, we got Israel Adesanya is minus 130. The comeback on Brad Tavares is plus 110. Now, Shaq, great main event, super intriguing. Which way you going?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Brad Tavares. I think he's one of the most well-rounded fighters in the game. I think, if there was any weakness, I mean, it would just been the two fights where he, got caught in. But other than that, I mean, Brad can stuff takedowns. He can strike. He's a super well-rounded fighter. Now, it's interesting because Brad's last fight when he fought Christoph, he opened minus 240, and then the public completely went against him and all took Jocko because, they were thinking Jocko was faster, Jocko was going to use angles in the movement on him. And, now it seems like it's the complete opposite. Now they're thinking Brad's going to they saw him do well against that style, so they think he's going to do the same thing here. But I think it's a completely different style. I think Israel's one of these guys where, he's a part of the UFC hype machine. I think Brad might have got suckered into taking this fight. Brad put together 4 wins against Talis Latis, who was ranked, Elias, who was ranked, Jocko, who's ranked. He beat 3 ranked guys, and now he's, stepping back to fight a guy that, really doesn't deserve it, but has all the potential skills to be something in the sport. We already know these I think Israel's a little bit different than a lot of the kickboxers I'm seeing because what I'm noticing is with these kickboxers like Gokhan and Giga Chikadze or Joe Schilling or any other kickboxing, they seem like they're on the tail end of their athletic careers. I feel like Israel's in the prime of his athletic career. I think his switch stance, his movement, I think what you guys are thinking in that Jocko fight might come to play out in this fight. I think Brad is a fantastic, amazing fighter, and there's definitely a path to victory. We saw Marvin Vettori get in on Israel's legs and take him down that 3rd round. But I think physically, even though the name value of Vettori might not be there, but I think physically that was a good test to see where Israel was at that stage in his career. For Christ's sake, the guy was coming off a win against Mike Wilkinson. You know what I'm saying? That's a big step up. Even though Vettori's a fraud, I still think that's a big step up. Vettori's a guy that took down Antonio Carlos Jr. and pounded on him for round 2. So I think it was actually an impressive performance. I think Brad's going to beat him. I think Brad's going to try to win a point fighting battle, but to convincingly say that he's going to be able to bail himself out, taking him down and, in the fence to kill time, it might be enough to win 3 rounds, but I see the movement. I see Israel creating a pulling the trigger issue for Brad. I see Brad, getting a little frustrated here, and I see him making a mistake, and then I see Israel just landing the more effective shots around a 5-round period. I think this whole cardio thing about Israel is a myth. I think he's actually got good punching volume, and I'm noticing everyone from his camp has good punching volume, like Shane Young, Dan Hooker, Israel, my boy Brad Riddell, if you haven't seen him knock out Keenan Song on the local scene. So, I'm actually going to take Israel Adesanya here by decision.
That's an interesting pick, Shaq. So you think that Israel's going to win at least 3 of the 5 rounds and go out there and get his arm raised by decision, huh?
Yeah, man, I think that those angles, man, that he showed against Victoria, I feel like that was effortless. I feel like he wasn't even out of first gear for that. But hey, Brad Tavares beats a lot of guys in first gears too. I mean, we saw that absolute clinic he put on my boy Talis Latis and Christoph Jocko. So
yeah, I'm not putting too much stock into this foot injury that people are talking about because for me, I feel like every single fighter comes into the fight with some kind of injury. No one's ever 100%, so I'm not worried about his foot at all. But that being said, I'm curious about his approach in this fight, because a lot of people like to talk about how, Brad, he does love his leg kicks, and he is kind of a basic striker. But, I mean, we talk about basic striker, but he does keep his hands very high in the air. He's not a very easy guy to hit. I mean, only Robert Whitaker and Tim Boesch, who both hit like trucks, have knocked this man out inside the octagon. Unless we want to talk about that time Seth Baczynski soccer kick knocked him out, which did happen, by the way, Shaq. But that being said, I want to talk about Brad's wrestling because we don't see it that much, but we have seen it when it's mattered. For example, in his fight with Elias, he took Elias down. In his fight with Nate Marquardt, he took Nate down. In his fight with Lorenz Larkin, who is probably the best striker that he's beaten, he took Lorenz Larkin down as well. So I do think that there's going to be a time here where he tries to mix in the takedowns, and I know that Israel got taken down in that third round against Marvin, but you know what, man? I feel like Israel shows the right instincts in terms of defending the takedowns, but there's certain things that's going to take a little bit longer time to develop. For example, when he's gassed out and he's off his back, that's what I really want to know. Because right now, his takedown defense is on point, his get-up game is on point, but, we've seen it while he's fresh. I'm really curious to see what happens if he can't get Brad out of there. They do go to the deep rounds, and then Brad puts him on his back. I want to know if Israel can get up from those situations. But at the same time, I don't want to underestimate Israel because I really do see the skill. I do see the potential. But first L time is a real thing, my man. And this could be that first L. I mean, he's taking on a 16-fight veteran, ranked number 8 in the world. Don't get me wrong. Israel does have the skills. And if he goes out here and knocks Brad out, he's right there. But I think that Brad, even though people don't think he might have success with the leg kicks because Israel's a higher level striker, I disagree. I think that he does have good timing on those leg kicks. I do think he can chop down Israel. And as long as he doesn't go down, I think he's got a good chance to win this fight. So you picked Israel by decision. I'm going to pick Brad by decision. So I think it's going to be a very intriguing battle. I'm going to go with the seasoned Hawaiian in this one. But I can't wait to see what happens. And, it's interesting. My boy Thiago Marreta was actually on reserve to fight in case someone had to pull out. So if someone pulls out in the next 24 hours, you might see Thiago Marreta in there. But if it's Brad versus Israel, I'm going to go with Brad. It won't surprise me if Israel wins because I do think he's super talented and I don't want to underestimate him at all. But I also got to show respect to the Hawaiian Warrior, so I'm going to go with Brad Tavares here. Now, Shaq, we got to talk about the fight to watch and the fighter to watch. So what is the fight to watch for the TUF finale?
My fight to watch is Alessio versus Marquez. Alessio, I feel like, is the cleaner guy, and Marquez he just added a lot of drama to the fight. He missed weight by 4 pounds, so I'm interested to see that fight. He's also an exciting fighter. All of his fights are exciting. Either someone gets knocked out or it's either, a sloppy back and forth brawl. So I'm interested to see how Julian Marquez and Alessio get down tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm very intrigued by that fight as well. And if that's not my fight to watch, I got to go with the main event between Brad Tavares and Israel Adesanya because I'm curious, is this too much too soon for Israel Adesanya? Is he biting off more than he can chew, taking on a guy like Brad Tavares? Or is he already on that level? I mean, is this our next superstar? Because, people are out here comparing him to John Jones, which I think is a really stupid comparison because, the dude's not a wrestler for starters. And, they might look a little similar. That's why you're comparing them. I just don't get the comparison. But that being said, when you're comparing someone to John Jones, they better come out here and fucking perform, man. And Brad's paid his dues. Like he's just beat a bunch of top 15 guys. Now he's got to take a a quote unquote step back. But it is his first UFC main event, so in a way you could argue that the A side is Israel Adesanya. So bottom line, my fight to watch is the main event. Now, Shaq, who is your fighter to watch for UFC TUF finale?
My fighter to watch is actually going to be Brad Tavares because Brad's been a guy that I've been high on in all of his fights, and he's been a money train. Actually, it's just that, I'm interested to see if he really got suckered into this fight because I felt like this was a fight that he really didn't have to take. I felt like he put in way more work and deserved way better. I wanted him to fight Chris Weidman, when Weidman came back from his surgery. So I'm interested to see why he wanted to prove a point by fighting Israel. And if he beats Israel, I think it's a serious one. Because of course there's going to be people that downgrade the win if he does get the win because Israel had only fought Vettori and Wilkinson. But if he does get the win, it's actually a super impressive win in my opinion. It's actually more of an impressive win than Jocko, Tallis, and Elias. So if Brad wins this, I think he deserves a super big fight.
Yeah, no questions asked. And my fighter to watch is Luis Pena. Look, I initially picked him to win the entire show. He got injured after he put a clinic on my boy Martinez. He didn't get to continue. But now they're bringing in this scrub to take an L here against Luis Pena. And I think if he goes out and he shows anything that he showed on the regional scene or on that TUF fight, that he could be someone to look out for in the UFC lightweight division. Granted, this will be his 5th pro fight. He's got a long way to climb, but definitely someone to look out for. So Luis Pena is my fighter to watch. Well, Shaq, we did it. It's going out tomorrow, Friday, the TUF finale. Some good fights, and obviously, we do have a max bet on the Ultimate Fighter finale, but like we said yesterday on the 226 breakdown show, the odds did get a little steam, but our 226 max bet is still within max bet range, and we fully plan on going 2-0 this weekend.
110%. Sign up today. Email us at bestfightpicks@gmail.com, and we'll get you squared away. And it's always max bet season.
Yes, sir. So this is just a start of a great run. Well, I mean, the continuation of a great run, because next up after 226 we got Boise, and the fun doesn't stop there. So make sure you follow me at Best Fight Picks, follow Shaq at MMA Genius 05, follow our Instagram at Best Fight Picks Official. Go to bestfightpicks.com for the plays. Subscribe to Half the Battle on iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, and Stitcher. Shaq and I will be back later next week to break down UFC Boise. So until the next time, let's cash these bets.